Right, hello my darlings. Back with the Great Ugly for my week 2 of my 100-day challenge to add ideas to the Great Ugly, my idea book. So today I want to have a go at making homemade paper. So you get this sort of handmade paper. I pick it up in like journals and charity shops and things like that, but I don't have very much left. So I had to go making my own. And I'm really blown away by the results just from this one piece. So I've gathered all the things together here, and let me get set up, and I will pop back on and show you how it's done. Right, back in 2 ticks. Right, and I'm back, and let's go over what you would need if you want to have a go at this at home yourself. You're going to need a messy towel. This is my yellow mixed media towel. It is clean. It is very stained. At the moment, it's got glitter stuck to it. So, but it's bright yellow. And it's the only bright yellow towel in the house, or it used to be bright, because this is what it's for, ink and paint and all sorts. So you're going to need an embossing machine. So these are my plates. And my machine is just off to the side here. And you're going to need toilet roll. Or as they say in Britain, loo roll. Or bog roll. I prefer loo roll. So some toilet roll. And a spray bottle or a mist bottle with some water. So I've already trimmed some packets of toilet roll down. And I found 5 layers is a good amount to start with. And then you're going to need some sort of fibers. I've got some flower petals there. I've got some just fibers from ribbon and wool. And these two I'm going to have another go at. I did try last night, but they were still too wet. And I'd never heard of this stuff. It's called Flower Soft. And it's like shredded, colored, let's see if I can get that to focus, fiber. And to make your own, I'd seen quite dated videos on YouTube where you can make your own. People were shredding polystyrene balls and all sorts. But what I found with this is artificial snow that you buy at Christmas time to put around your little villages and stuff. So I put some of the artificial snow into a plastic bag with a bit of ink. And it's colored it lovely. It just needed time to dry. And I do have a couple of pots of glitter here at the moment. So if you're anybody out there that's watching is interested in this, I can do a video. Again, all new to me. I remember seeing this toilet roll idea years back, but I didn't have an embossing machine at the time. And the other thing I brought out to try is I have my little squirrel jars that live by my sewing machine that have all teeny tiny interesting scraps in them, but they're all very tiny. So I'm going to pull one of the jars apart now, and I might have a test and see if I can get some of these smaller, chop some of these tinier bits of lace and see how they behave when they're embedded in the paper. So I'm going to leave that over to the side, out of the way a minute. So let's get a couple of these assembled, and then I'll show you what it's like going through the embossing machine. So that's my first layer. Pop this light on. And I'm going to pop down, do just a few with the flower petals. So I'm going to spread them out really sparse and mist that with some water. Faith, that wasn't smart, was it? I'll spread them back out now. They're flying everywhere. Water first, then you put down your bits. They've just flown everywhere. Now I'm not going all the way to the ends on these because I'm kind of guessing the height of my plate for my embossing machine. So another layer goes on top. Miss that. You don't want it like wringing wet, but you want it pretty well dampened down all the way over. And then another layer. And again, spray it down. A mist bottle works better because I guess it's the same principle as making paper from pulp. You're just using the pulp that's already in this thin form of the toilet roll. So it sort of logically makes sense to me. All right, spray first. And put a few more flower petals on there. And spread them out a bit. So I am going to experiment with some of the other materials here. But I just want to get not a stem, nothing too thick. I do have a couple of dodgy pieces back here that I toyed with last night that I'll show you at the end of things that went wrong. So that last layer on top, so you got a layer, some petals, 3 layers in the center, and that 5th layer on top, and each layer needs to get dampened down with some water. And what I've also got just off camera to the side of me here is my heat tool. So I can dry these quickly for the sake of filming. Otherwise, the ones I did yesterday, I just left them laying on the table overnight. They were dry in the morning. So, get my plates. Now what I have done in here is I've put myself a paper shim into my machine. So it's just some A4 paper folded over. I think there's about 4 or 5 sheets in there. I think I took that. No. Did I take that one out or I'll leave it in? I can't remember. I think I took it out last night. We'll see now. You always just run it through again. It's not like a die cut. You don't have to worry about it shifting so much. So lift that up and onto here. And I wouldn't use, because I thought about using colored water, and I thought, nah, water's going to go onto my machine, but I don't want colored water going all over my machine, if that makes sense. All right, let me grab it. And in we go. No, I think I did. That's far too loose. I did have that plate in there yesterday. There's no pressure on that at all. So let's pop this in there. The shim. So I've got my paper shim, the thin one, the thick one, and the 2 plates. That's more like it. Yeah, feel the resistance now. Stand up for this. And a whole bunch of water is going to squish out the end. But that's okay. It's just water. Back, and then back again. I don't know if you need to do it that many times, but it was working for me, so come off the end then. Grab a bit of extra toilet roll. It just soaks up all that extra water that's running down on my plate. There we go. That. And there we go. Handmade paper. It just needs to dry. So I was trying to shift it over and getting that last end, and in the end, I thought, no, most of my journals are going to be A5-ish. I'm not going to need anything that long. So that really soaking wet bit, I've just tore off gently, because this is going to be trimmed in the end anyway. So, and that now just needs to dry. And the interesting thing I found, I'll get my original back out now. That's 5 layers, and you've got a nice sort of parchment type thickness, it does really feel like handmade paper. So my first attempt was here. And what I found really interesting is there's indentations on the paper. It's really difficult to see it on camera because it doesn't want to focus on it. Ever so slightly pick up the flower stem there. Any of the imperfections on my cutting plates, I can see in the texture of the paper. And lots of those marks were bits of paper left over in the plate from die cuts. And it's all come out embedded in the paper. So, no, I was like, wow, that's really cool. So that will go away to dry. And let's prep a couple of more, and then I'll come back on camera and show how they all look when they're dried. Just do another one, and I want to try that homemade flour soft now. That's meant to be blue, but it's looking very purpley to me, but we'll see. So sprinkle a little bit of that. And see how it behaves. And a little bit of blue. Oh, that's a bit too much, but we'll see. And then just keep misting. Pop that on top. So that is the blue and the pink flour soft. I'll carry on with that one off camera now, not to keep everybody hanging about. Because I do want to get these dried and then put into the Great Ugly. So let's have a test for the fabric. Or perhaps just some of the fibers first. Let's move this over. Let's try these fibers. And this is like, you know, from wonky type of, different types of woolly ribbon. I just pulled a few random ones out. Oh my word, it's like doll hair. We get a few of these in there just to, I want to see how they behave when they're squished. That's another thing. If you've never squished botanicals through your Sizzix machine, have a go. But don't ever do chive flowers. Oh my god, I did chive flowers one time, the big purple chive flowers. Oh my god, my craft room stunk of onions for days. Made a beautiful impression in the machine, but oh my god, the smell was unreal. Because chive flowers are very juicy. But no, I've squished botanicals through. I still have some of that left, actually. I might pull some of those out. One more on top of that. You can see where that ink is already starting to color from the water. And one more then with the fabric scraps. I'm a little bit more skeptical with the fabric scraps. So that's had 3, that's had 3. Let's get one more. So you can see how they've been assembled. And I suppose we want to go with the thinnest. Am I still on camera? Am I? Stay on. There we go. So, not too thick. Some of the really, really thin pieces. There we go. Because you're not adding any adhesive to this. So you want, well, that's interesting. Scissors, maybe? Yeah. Because you're not adding any adhesive of any kind to this. So you're just relying on the physics of the paper to squish everything into place. Add a bit of that lace. Anything else in there? Another teeny tiny bit of lace. Take that orange one out. Yep, so that's the idea. So I'm going to keep going and get these assembled. And when I come back, then I'll have them all have been squished through the machine. And I'll dry them then. And get the wonky ones out and we'll have a look. Right? Watch this space. I'll be back. Right, and I'm back. Let's have a look. This was the piece of handmade paper that I'd had from a charity shop. So you can see all those sort of hairy fibers in there. And that's made that sort of traditional method with the pulp that's in the water and screened. So, and this was my first attempt last night using just a couple of flower petals. And put these on the other side now. This is the first one we did tonight. So you've got just flower petals on that side and some petals on that side. And I could still see the impressions and the random patterns in the paper from my machine. This was the homemade flower soft, which I'm going to call a no or a maybe. I'm not sure. I think I used, I can't remember what ink bottle I grabbed up there to use, but I don't think it was alcohol ink. I may try dyeing some more of this artificial snow and dig out my alcohol inks, which are squirreled away with some UV resin stuff. But this stuff has left air pockets. So it'll still work. It's just a bit more grungy. But worth keeping as note to self for the future. This was the fabric, the ribbon fibers. And again, its air has gotten trapped in there because I think some of those pieces are just too big. But if you wanted to do something really, really grungy, I don't know, I think it's something I just need to play with more. But I'm going to keep these pieces. Some of them are 100% dry, but I am going to keep them. These are the fabric scraps. This was a bit more interesting. So you do have a little bit of air trapped under there. This one is still slightly damp, but it's left an interesting effect, and you can still write on it because that surface is still like paper. So again, going into the great ugly. And then for giggles, I had to go with an embossing folder. So this one now is with text and like a stack of books and a teacup at the bottom. And that one is the Crafter's Companion one. I've not long had this in a D-stash. Yeah. And Vintage Dear Diary, and it's Crafter's Companion. So that's what I'm going to go add some ink to that now and see. And then this one I did with one of the 3D textures, Sizzix ones. And look at this. Isn't that yummy? Bits of glitter stuck to it. But I'm really keen to know what these two look like with a bit of ink on them. And to be fair, I think the 3D one, I think it's actually given me a better impression on the toilet roll than it does on paper. But yeah, I'm definitely going to have a go at inking these and see. And before I get the Great Big Ugly out. I'll show you the wonky ones. These were last night testing. I had just the flower, the paper flower pieces you could buy in the discount stores. But as you can see, all the ink that was on the petals is just smushed as it went through the machine. So, I don't know if I would do that again. This, again, was experiments with the proper flour soft, which, of course, bunched and give this, like, bubbled up effect. It almost looks like it's blistered. It's got blisters in it from where that flour soft went, and on the other side. And I think I put a bit of glitter in that one. Again, that one was playing around with that stuff when it was still wet. And it's got all sorts of blisters going on. But it's still solid. It's still a solid piece of paper. And that one was, again, glitter and blisters. And some of the fatter glitter created those blisters. So you really need something that's going to be squashed super, super thin. That's really alien looking, right? And that was made using this stuff. Moss. Like crafters, florist moss. And I just put some of those fibers in there. But I would definitely use this idea in a different themed journal. Because it does look so ever so deliciously weird. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's almost like there's this alien life growing inside the paper. But anyhow, right, I'm going to clear the decks, make some space here, get the Great Big Ugly out, and decide which ones of these in what form are going to live inside the Great Ugly. So I'll be back. Right, I think I've decided what I'm going to do. So these more wonky ones and the ones that have got that blistered effect, they're not going to waste. They're going to go on my scrap trolley for now. And I'll have to think about those later. These are going into the Great Big Ugly. And these two are staying back for Penelope, which is my current make that I'm working on with Rachel Bella's kit. So that's going into the Great Big Ugly. That's the very first piece that I ever tried with the toilet roll. So it's got all of the impregnated paper out of the Sizzix plates in it as well. It's got a really good impression. That's the lace snippets in it. I'm going to leave it in there as an example because I can see like some of these have made really nice impressions, but it's the super, super thin ones that have. So stay away from any of the thicker ones. And of course that very organic looking moss one is going in as an example. So let's have a go at these first. I want to get some, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to write on those notes to myself. So let's get some ink onto this one. And I'm just going to go with black. I think this is like the Nocturne. Grunge it up a bit. See how it handles. But it handles ink the same way any other paper does, really. But it feels different to paper. It's got more of a fabric feel. Or if you've ever come across really, really old books or like old children's annuals from the sort of 1920s, it's got that kind of thickness to it. Give this ever so light. Oh, it's coming off. Oh, this one's failing. I need a new pad on it. Yeah, it's failing completely. This last little bit. This needs a new pad. Oh. Put a runaway. So, very grungy. And let's try a bit of this bronze. Around the teacup. Sorry, I've stopped talking because I'm thinking, or I'm concentrating. So now I'm still coming to terms with this wax and how it behaves. I've not used the built-in sponge applicator that comes with it. I think I asked on one of the Facebook groups a while back when I got it how other people use it, and everybody just says use your finger. And maybe a little bit around where the book spines are. Or is that going to be too grungy? Oh, it doesn't matter. It's going in the Great Ugly. So go for it. Because I can always look back on it. And it always sparks a memory then as well. When I'm stumped for something and I need inspiration and I get the Great Ugly out and it's like, oh, I remember that now. So this wax is a little bit thinner than the ones that I actually bought with some treasure hunting money. But these have come from a D stash, so I'm not sure how old they are. So, what do we think? Nah, I'm not going to do the text. Might whack a little bit onto the corner, the edges. So that's really thin then. Not all the way around, just in a couple of places. Can't be too thick because I want to stick it in the book. I'm going to have to heat this with the heat gun. I'm gutted at the moment. My handy dandy hairdryer has bit the dust. And it's gone through like 2 fuses now, so it's gone. I've got to get a new one. I'm trying to use the industrial heat gun that I use up in the workshop, and it's no good for paper. So, right, leave that to dry a second. I may have to go off and dry that a second. Let's get the Great Ugly out, and I'll have a go, perhaps with some ink on that before I sign off. Where is the Great Ugly? Right, sorry, I got a squeaky chair. So, I've decided on those 2 pages, and that is I do my masterboards on A3, typically, and that's just a cutoff of an A3 that I left with a wonky overlap when I was doing it, and that's acrylic ink that I've put on with a brush. So these 2 are going to have notes added to them to go in here. That I'm going to add a note to as well. Just notes about my process and how I've ended up where I've ended up. That then is going to go here. And that will go behind here. So I am going to pause for a second and do my notes, dry this, and I'll be back. Right, and I've dried that. I've added some notes to these. I'll show those in a moment. So I just want to stick that one onto there. Where's our D? There's our D. On that side. And the bottom. So no, it's been an interesting experience. I got lots of ideas now that I've sat and sort of thought about it for a moment. It's definitely an idea that I want to experiment with some more with, especially using, oh, come on, go down, those 3D texture embossing folders. And I do have some new embossing folders that I had in a D-stash box recently that I haven't had even a remote chance of playing with yet. But no, the only thing I can't sort of pick up on camera is that really delicate effect or texture on the paper from all the imperfections on the plates, on the Sizzix plates. So if I do play again, I think I'm going to want to do a whole bunch of die cutting beforehand. So I do have those sort of weird elements left in the plates. So I've just written my notes to myself is all it is. Faux handmade paper from Lou Roll, 5 layers, mist each layer with water, add the dried flower petals, run it through the machine with an extra paper shim, or run it through with an embossing folder, and, you know, interesting bits get picked up from the machine. And in that pocket, that side tuck there, on that one, laces, trims added to the Lou Roll faux paper. It can be written on. Keep playing. Try netting. Now, in my stash here, I have a lot of, I think in America, they're still called like shears, like your sheer curtains. And in Britain, they're normally just called nets or netting or curtain netting. I've got tons of it because I walked into Dunelm one day, which is kind of sort of like a Bed Bath & Beyond, but ish. And there was a cardboard box by the entrance with just bags and bags and bags of different types. And they were all like 4p, 5p. So I've got tons of it. I use it for journal covers and whatnot. But I'm wondering if I put a piece of netting through with this process more towards the center. I'm wondering if that'll give me a different overall texture. So, something to think about. And then that one, again, love this organic effect of using the moss. I can't really give it a right adjective. It's such a bizarre, it reminds me of the concept of the mycelium network of mushrooms for some reason. But it is that sort of mossy texture. I've laid that artificial moss down and it's just kind of like found its own groove, you know. It can be written over, so it's not too bulky. And I thought on the back, this would be a nice one to sit with my watercolors and doodle on. And I'm wondering how this faux Lou Roll paper takes watercolors. And I'm thinking it's promising. So those two are going away in there. Think about for the notes for the future. And that's my Great Ugly done for today. Pin back into arty again. I've gotten too sidetracked. So that's the Great Big Ugly for week 2. Now, if I come up with anything more in week 2, I will jump back on and add it. And I did say I'm going to have a go adding a bit of ink to that one before I go off camera. So let's have a go. And in Penelope, I'm using gathered twigs. So I just want to have a light go. Because again, it's just Lou Roll. So if I mess it up, I can make another one. Ooh. That's a promising start. Just go over the top with my pad. Oh, yes. Give the edges a knock. Oh, wow. Let me get all the way around now and I'll hold it up. I'm quite excited about this prospect because the relief on the toilet roll is far better than I've had with paper in the past. I know paper you're supposed to dampen as well when you're using these 3D texture ones, but wow, look at that. And it is proper 3D embossed. I need more flower petals. Right, my lovelies, that's me done for now. And I'll be back. Take care, everyone. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye.